Chapter 4. Later, Monday afternoon. Hey, Shannon, wait up. I want to talk to you. Shannon turned around in a crowded hallway, swinging her bulging backpack over her shoulder. Can't. I'm late. I have a dentist appointment. Meg pushed through a laughing group of kids and hurried to catch up to her. The bell had rung before Meg could get back to the study hall. She looked for Tony. She wanted to show him the threatening note, but she didn't see him in the room or in the hall. Shannon, wait up. I can't. Really? Call me tonight, okay? Shannon turned and disappeared around the corner. Hey, you see Shannon? It was Dwayne Culligan. He towered over Meg. All she could see was his blue t-shirt stretched tightly across his muscular chest. He's so big he doesn't look like a teenager, Meg thought. Maybe he was held back 5 or 6 times. All the hours he should have been studying and doing homework, he must have been working out. You just missed her, she said coldly. She didn't like Dwayne, and she didn't like the idea of Dwayne and Shannon. He wasn't good enough for her. He wasn't good enough for her dog. She was glad that Shannon agreed. Meg didn't even like Dwayne hanging out with her cousin Brian, but there was nothing she could do about it. If you see her, tell her I've got something for her, Dwayne shouted over the noise of the corridor. What? Meg asked. He gave her an exaggerated wink and a big, dirty smile in reply and trotted off, laughing as if he just made the best joke in the world. Oh, Meg thought, he's so gross. Shannon is going to have to tell him to get lost once and for all. She walked back to the study hall to collect her things, then headed up to her locker on the 2nd floor. Hey, Tony, hi! He was standing at his locker, leaning against the wall with one hand, reading a piece of paper in his other hand. When he looked up, she saw that his face was troubled. Oh, hi, Meg. He looked back down at the paper. She dropped her backpack on the floor and grabbed the paper out of his hand. It was another note with big block letters scrawled in red crayon. You got one too? As she read his, she bent down and pulled hers out of the book bag to show him. His read, Tony, don't let the party take place, or you're dead meat. A friend. I found it in my locker, Tony said, reading her note quickly and handing it back to her. He seemed quite shaken. Who could have done it? It's someone who knows us both, who knows where our lockers are, who knows where we are. I don't know, Meg said, shaking her head, rereading his note. I haven't a clue. Still think it's just a joke? He asked. He took the note from her hands and crumpled it up into a ball. No, I guess not. But who would want to stop this party? Why would someone be so desperate to stop it that they'd do this? Tony shrugged. He took a maroon sweatshirt from his locker and pulled it over his head. We don't know how desperate they really are, he said, straightening his hair with both hands. What do you mean? I mean, how far will they go to stop us? Will they really hurt us? She stared into Tony's eyes and caught the fear inside. That's ridiculous, she said softly, but now she wasn't so sure. She hadn't been at all frightened. She only felt anger that someone would be pulling something like this, but seeing the fear on Tony's face made her a little afraid too. I really don't want to find out how desperate they are, he said, looking away to evade her staring eyes. What do you mean? I think we should forget about the party. We can see Ellen and have a good time without throwing a big surprise party with 100 kids, can't we? That's not the point, Meg said sharply. We can't let this creep, whoever it is, push us around. If we want to throw a party, we're going to throw a party. It's a free country, right? But someone really doesn't want us to throw that party, Tony said. He picked up the bald note and started tossing it from hand to hand. I don't care, Meg said. I don't care. She could feel her anger rising. We're having that party, and we're going to find out who's trying to frighten us, and get them to stop. Meg, please. He grabbed her shoulder, hard at first, then loosened his grip. Think about this. Think about it carefully. We both should think about it before we decide what to do. No, I've already decided, she said stubbornly. She pulled away from him. She realized that she was annoyed that Tony would give in, would back down so easily. Was he frightened for her or for himself, she wondered. He was just frightened. She had another thought. What about Shannon? Had Shannon received any threatening phone calls or notes? No. She surely would have mentioned them. Shannon was as much behind the party as Meg and Tony, wasn't she? Why wasn't she being threatened, too? Someone cut up my invitations, she told Tony. Huh? I had them in study hall. I was called to the office, and when I got back, they'd been cut into tiny pieces. Wasn't Shannon sitting right behind you? Yes, but she said she went out, to the library. She didn't see who did it. Funny, he said, thinking hard. I didn't see her leave the room. You didn't? No, I was there the whole time. I'm sure she was, too. Well, that's weird. She leaned back against the lockers. Tony, you don't think Shannon... I don't know. She didn't really want the party at first, did she? But I don't think she'd... No, of course not. She's my best friend. She picked up her note and read it again. Did the big block letters look as if they could have been made by a girl? Maybe. It was hard to say. Meg felt a chill slide down her spine. She suddenly had the feeling that she and Tony were being watched. She looked up from the note. Yes, someone was staring at them from across the hall. It was her cousin Brian, and he had the eeriest look on his face. How long had he been watching them? Why was he just standing there, staring like that? Brian? She called. He looked startled, as if he hadn't planned on being seen. Tony took a few steps toward him. Brian turned and ran. Chapter 5. Monday night. Meg, what are you doing up there? Homework, Mom, Meg shouted. If I don't finish the psych paper, I'll get an incomplete in the course. I thought you finished that paper days ago, Mrs. Dalton called up the stairs. No, I've been working on it, but some other things came up. Well, get to work then. Mom, thanks a bunch for the advice. You know, if I have to spend the whole night discussing it with you, I won't get too far. Well, aren't you the tense one these days? So touchy. Mom, please, give me a break. Silence. She heard her mother walk away from the stairs. Meg looked down at the sheet of notebook paper in front of her on the desk. She wasn't working on her psych paper. Instead, she had written on the top line, List of Suspects. She started to write the number 1, but her pencil lead broke. She tossed the pencil across the room and picked up another. Then she wrote the number 1 and beside it the name Brian. Then under Brian she wrote, Why? A. Because he was staring at Tony and me so strangely. B. Because he ran away when he saw that we saw him. C. Question mark. She sucked on the pencil eraser. Why? What reason could Brian possibly have for wanting to stop Ellen's party? She searched her memory for a clue. Brian and Ellen. Nothing. Zero. Zip. She couldn't come up with anything. Brian and Ellen were only acquaintances, never even friends, really. Brian certainly had no reason to hate Ellen or even dislike her. Brian had been the one to help Ellen, to rescue her that day a year ago, that day in the Fear Street woods, when Evan shot himself and Brian found Ellen there, crying, dazed. Ellen and Evan. Did Evan's death have something to do with this? Meg removed the pencil from her mouth and wrote, Note, does someone hate Ellen because of Evan? Then she added a second name to her list of suspects, Shannon. And under Shannon she wrote, Why? A. Because Evan was her brother. Maybe she blames Ellen for what happened. B. Shannon was in study hall when the invitations were torn up. C. Shannon wasn't enthusiastic about the party from the start. D. Shannon's been different since Evan died. She crossed out D, drawing heavy black lines through it. It wasn't fair, Meg decided. They had all been different since Evan died. Shannon is my best friend, Meg thought, tapping the pencil rapidly on the desktop. She wouldn't try to scare me, would she? She wouldn't try such stupid horror movie tricks. Would she? Would Shannon be honest with her about the party, about Ellen? I don't know, Meg said, not realizing she was speaking aloud. Shannon, she decided, would have to stay on the list of suspects. And who else? Meg, how's the paper coming along? Oh no, her mother was back already? Fine, Mom, till you interrupted, she shouted. You made me lose my train of thought. Maybe that's because you think with your caboose. Her mother laughed hysterically. She always loved her own rotten jokes. Thanks for the support, Mom. She heard her mom walk away again, still chuckling. Her eyes returned to the sheet of paper. She was surprised to see that without realizing it, she had written a name after the number 3. Ellen. Why was Ellen a suspect? A. Because someone from school could have called her and told her about the party. B. Because Ellen never liked parties. C. She never called or wrote to any of her old friends. Maybe she doesn't want to see everyone. D. She never even explained why her family moved away from Shadyside so suddenly. Yes, Ellen had to be considered a suspect, Meg realized. But how would she have gotten the red crayon notes to Meg and Tony? A friend? Someone in school could be helping her. So maybe there were 2 people Meg should be looking for. She wrote the number 4. Is there a 4th suspect? Is there someone else who knew about the party? Knew Meg and Tony had a good reason to stop the party? She couldn't think of anyone, so she wrote down Dwayne. Why? Because I don't like him. The phone rang. She stared at it, reluctant to pick it up. Maybe I'll just let it ring, she thought, but she knew she couldn't do that. If a phone rang, she always had to pick it up, even if it wasn't hers. She couldn't bear to let a phone call go unanswered. She let it ring one more time, took a deep breath, and picked it up. Hello? Hi, Meg. Tony? You're safe? You're okay? Tony, what do you mean? You sound terrible. I was worried about you. I think someone was following me tonight. Following you? Where? Following me home. I was at my dad's gas station, see, helping out. He had the car, so I walked home. It was weird. I kept seeing these shadows, but every time I turned around, there was no one there. And? And then there were footsteps behind me, so I started running. And the footsteps started running too. Did you see who it was? Was it a boy or a girl? I never saw. It was pitch black, and whoever it was stayed pretty far back. Are you sure there really was someone there? Of course I'm sure, he snapped angrily. I'm not totally nuts, you know. Sorry, Tony, don't shout at me, please. I just wanted to know. Listen, this is getting scary, Meg. I think this person really means business. Didn't you get a look at whoever it was at all? Didn't you see anything? No. Was he tall or short? I don't know, I just ran. I just wanted to get home. Give me a break, okay? Sorry, please don't yell. I called you right away. I thought maybe they tried something. Maybe they followed you too or something. No, I'm fine, really. This party, Meg, I don't know. What do you mean? I mean, is it worth it? It's just a stupid party. Yes, but now it's a principle, Meg said. A principle? Aw, come on, forget about principles. Somebody follow me, Meg. I'm really scared. I'm not willing to risk my life for a party. But don't you see, she cried impatiently, it isn't just a party. If somebody wants to stop it so badly, there's got to be more to it. There's something else going on here, Tony, and we've got to find out what it is. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? He said with some bitterness. You're a real Nancy Drew, huh? You like being Miss Detective. You think this is exciting. Kind of, Meg admitted. But I also don't like being pushed around by someone who thinks they can tell me. Count me out, Tony interrupted. What? Count me out. You heard me. Out of what? Out of everything. Out of the party. Out of you and me. The words seemed to sting her ears. The sting traveled quickly to her chest. It was so unexpected. You mean that? Goodbye, he said quietly, and hung up the phone. Meg slammed the receiver down angrily. Of course, Tony was just mouthing off without thinking again, she told herself. Of course he really doesn't mean it. He doesn't really want to break up with me over this. Or does he? He did sound really frightened. Meg asked herself if she was frightened too. No, she decided. She wasn't at all scared. She was too furious to be scared. She wasn't going to give up the party, and she wasn't going to give up Tony. I'll find out who's doing this, and I'll find out why, she said aloud. She picked up the receiver and started to push Tony's number, but then she thought better of it. I'll give him a day or two to calm down, then I'll apologize. She wasn't going to allow herself to believe that he really had broken up with her. She wasn't going to believe it. No way. She realized she was biting her lower lip, and now it was bleeding. How was she to concentrate on her psych paper? She couldn't. She'd have to try again tomorrow. But what should she do now? She looked down at her list of suspects. Number 3, Ellen. She didn't want Ellen to be on the list. The party was for Ellen, after all. All this trouble was for Ellen. It really would be easier if she could cross Ellen off the list. I'll call her. The idea seemed to float into her mind from out of nowhere. Such a good idea. I'll call her and tell her how happy I am that she's coming for a visit. She felt her throat tighten. A feeling of dread started up from her stomach. No, it won't be hard. It won't be hard to talk to Ellen. We were best friends after all. She picked up the phone and pushed information. She realized her hands were suddenly ice cold. It didn't take long to get Ellen's phone number. I should have called her sooner, she scolded herself. Why did I wait all these months for Ellen to call me? She pushed the upstate area code and the number. It rang once, twice. The dull ring sounding very far away. Ellen picked up after the third ring. Hello? Ellen, it's me, Meg. Meg? I don't believe it. Hi, Ellen shrieked. She sounded thrilled to hear from Meg. Meg let out a sigh of relief. She felt much better. So, how are you? Fine, just fine. How are you? Okay, not bad, Meg said. It's funny to hear your voice. It's been so long. I know, Ellen said, sounding guilty. I've been meaning to write her something. I just got so busy, and... How's your new school? Okay, I guess. It's different, really different from Shadyside. I'll tell you about it when I see you. I'm coming down, you know. Yeah, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to tell you how glad I am. I'll be staying at my Aunt Amy's. I hope we'll have lots of time to spend together. Me too, Ellen. I really miss you. Meg blurted that out. She hadn't really meant to sound so emotional. It just came out. It felt so good to be talking to her old friend, so comfortable, as if things hadn't changed at all. Me too. You want to do anything special, or see anyone, or anything? Meg asked, talking rapidly, excitedly. No, not really. How's Tony? He's okay. The same, I guess. You two still together? Yeah. Up until 2 minutes ago, but why go into that? I'm so happy you called, Meg. I can't wait to see you. Me too. They chattered on for a few more minutes, not really talking about anything. Then Meg decided she'd better say goodbye before the call got expensive enough for her father to complain about it. Ellen promised to call as soon as she got to Sadie's side, and then they hung up. Meg felt really good. What a nice talk. Ellen sounded the same as ever, and she'd been so happy that Meg had called. Meg picked up the pencil and started to cross out Ellen's name from her suspect list, but then she stopped. She stared at the paper, thinking hard. Ellen seemed so happy, so thrilled, so enthusiastic. Too enthusiastic. Too happy. That wasn't like Ellen at all. It was all so forced, so phony. She was being super cheery, dripping with sweetness, Meg realized. She wasn't being Ellen. She wasn't being herself. What was she trying to hide? Chapter 6. Wednesday night. Why don't you hit him? I tried that. He thought it was funny. And I guess reasoning with him is out? Lisa rolled her dark eyes and sighed. That's all I do is reason with him. Corey and I spend all our time together reasoning with each other. That's one of the main reasons we don't have any fun. We're too busy reasoning with each other and discussing why we're not getting along. We don't have any time left to get along. Meg tilted the can to her lips and took a long drink of Diet Coke. She slumped down low in the big leather couch, holding the can in her lap. I like this room, she said after a long silence, looking around at the dark wood-paneled walls, the bookshelves up to the ceiling with the big screen TV built in the center, the glass doors that opened onto a backyard terrace. We don't have a den. You're not trying to change the subject or anything, are you? Lisa asked with a wry grin. Meg smiled. I just don't know what to say. Tony and I aren't getting along either. We had a big fight about the party for Ellen. He's really frightened that whoever's been trying to scare us really means business. But I told him I wasn't going to let some creep frighten me out of what I want to do. Maybe you are being stubborn about it, Meg. Maybe Tony is right, Lisa said, pulling her long legs over the side of the leather armchair she was sitting on. At least Tony's worried about you. If someone was threatening me, Corey would probably say, yeah, but what's on TV tonight? Meg laughed. Lisa did a great Corey impression. Maybe you should just lighten up on Corey for a while, she said. He's a really good guy. Maybe you're just expecting too much from him. You two have grown up together. He lives right next door. It's natural he'd take you a little for granted. In a way, he should. Lisa finished off her Diet Coke and crushed a can in her hand. What's with you, Meg? I didn't want any good advice. I just wanted to complain. Both girls laughed. But I'm being selfish, Lisa said, tossing the crushed soda can toward a wastebasket by the desk across the room. Hey, 2 points. Her face turned serious. You came over here to tell me about the terrible things that have been happening to you, and all I do is talk about Corey and me. I'm sorry. You've got real problems. You know, maybe you should call the police. Sure, Lisa, Meg said, pulling herself up with some difficulty. The couch was so soft, she had sunk down into the cushion. I'll go to the police and tell them that someone cut up my party invitations in study hall. That'll really get them excited, right? They'll probably get the whole police squad out on that case. Maybe a SWAT team, too. How do you get your skin like that? Lisa asked. What? Your skin. It's so perfect. Like a baby's skin. Huh? Lisa? Meg's hands went up involuntarily to her face. Your face always looks like you just washed it. Fresh scrubbed. That's what they call it. You have that fresh scrubbed look. I guess now it's you who wants to change the subject, Meg grumbled. No, sorry, I just got distracted. Lisa stood up and stretched. Then she walked to the glass doors and looked out. Look, Meg, maybe you should just forget about the surprise party. Then all of your problems will go away. But I don't want to, Meg told her, not meaning to sound so whiny. I really care about Ellen. I really want to show her that we still care about her. And I'm really curious now. I want to find out why someone is so desperate to stop this party. What do you mean? It isn't just a silly prank. Someone has a serious reason for trying to stop the party. But what could it be? Is it because someone really hates Ellen? I don't know of anyone who hates Ellen. Do you? Meg asked. Lisa stared out into the darkness. No, but then what else could it be? Maybe it has something to do with Evan. Evan, yeah, I was thinking that too. What made you say Evan, Lisa? I don't know. When I think of Ellen, I guess I automatically think of Evan. You know, Ellen and Evan. We always talked about them together. But Evan has been dead for a year. What could he possibly have to do with someone trying to stop the party? I don't know. It's a total mystery. But it's a mystery I want to solve. That's why I'm not going to give up about this party. I'm not going to quit. If I give up now, we'll never know what this is all about. Did anyone ever tell you you're a very stubborn person? Everyone, Meg said. What are you looking at? Just looking across the backyard. There's a light on in Corey's room. I wonder if he's up there. She stared out a while longer, then backed away from the glass doors and dropped back onto the black-leathered armchair. So, do you have any idea at all who might be trying to frighten you and Tony? Any hunches? Promise you won't laugh? Meg said cautiously. You know me, Lisa replied. Yes, I do. That's why I said, promise you won't laugh. Okay, I promise. But my fingers may be crossed a little. Well, I made a list of suspects. And? Well, the number one on the list is Brian. Lisa sat up straight. Brian? Why Brian? He's your cousin, isn't he? Yeah, second cousin. But that doesn't rule him out. He may be in my family, but he's still as weird as they come, always hanging around with Dwayne, playing those fantasy games. I don't know, Lisa said doubtfully. Who else is on your list? Shannon. What? Lisa's dark eyes lit up with surprise. Shannon sits right behind me in study hall. She could easily have cut up the invitations. When I asked her about it, she said she didn't see anything because she went to the library. But Tony was in the study hall too. He says he never saw Shannon leave the room. And what about the phone call and the note? She could have been the one, Meg said, sounding less sure of herself. But Meg, she's your best friend, right? Right, I know it's a crazy idea, Lisa, but Shannon hasn't been the same since Evan died, and she seemed to be very much against this party right from the beginning. Lisa sighed and shook her head. Your cousin and your best friend. Who else is on the list? Your mom and dad? Come on, Lisa, Not very likely suspects, Meg. Why would Shannon try to scare you like that? Why wouldn't she just tell you that? I don't know. I just get weird vibes from her, that's all. Maybe she blames Ellen for what happened to Evan. Maybe she's afraid of something that might happen at the party. I don't really know. Well, go ask her then. What? You heard me, Lisa said, jumping to her feet and starting to pace back and forth. She's your best friend. You don't want to be walking around with your best friend on your list of suspects. So just go ask Shannon if she's the one. Ask her why she doesn't want a party for Ellen. Talk to her, straight. That's what friends are for, right? I think maybe I'm like you, Meg said, straightening her sweatshirt. I don't want any good advice. I just wanted to complain. Meg thanked Lisa for the talk and headed out to the car. The cool air revived her, cleared her head. Maybe Lisa is right, she thought. Maybe I will have a little talk with Shannon tomorrow. She slid into her mother's little Toyota and headed for home, rehearsing over and over what she would say. She pulled up the drive and stopped a few inches from the garage. A light over the garage door cast a dim yellow glow onto the shingles of the house. Meg started to climb out of the car, then startled, inhaled sharply. That shadow on the porch. It wasn't usually there, was it? Was someone waiting for her in the darkness? Chapter 7. Wednesday night. Meg slumped down in the seat, staring hard at the shadow on the porch shingles. The shadow didn't move. Her finger was on the ignition key. Her first impulse was to start the car up again, back down the drive, and race away. But maybe it was Tony waiting for her there. How many times had he done that? Waited for her on the doorstep without ringing the bell and going in? Dozens. Maybe he had come to apologize, to make up. She pulled the key from the ignition and started to open the door. Or maybe it wasn't Tony. Maybe it was the creep who had called her. Maybe it was the creep who had followed Tony. The shadow didn't move. How was it possible for a person to stand so still? She pushed open the car door a few inches. Who's there? She called, surprised that she sounded more angry than afraid. Silence. Who is it? Is someone there? Silence. The shadow didn't move. Tony, is that you? It wasn't possible for someone to stay that still for so long. She climbed out of the car and crept silently across the wet lawn toward the porch. She could feel the fear rise and catch in her throat. She took another step, her sneakers making soft squishy sounds in the tall, dew-covered grass. Why am I doing this? She asked herself. Why aren't I running away? Why am I being so stupid? She stopped at the side of the porch. Who's there? And then she laughed. The shadow was made by a stack of tall flower pots her father had left on the fence railing. Meg, you're losing it, she said aloud, and breathed a heavy sigh. She hurried inside to get some sleep, locking the door securely behind her. Thursday afternoon. Meg poked her fork at the bright orange substance on her plate. If it was macaroni and cheese, where was the macaroni? If it was just cheese, why was it such a weird color? The lunchroom wasn't very crowded for some reason. Maybe other kids had heard they were serving this orange sticky stuff today and hurried somewhere else for lunch. Corey Brooks and some of his pals from the gymnastics team were clowning around at a table near the door. Don't they ever get tired of throwing milk cartons at each other? Meg asked herself. The windows along the far wall were open since it was the warmest spring day yet. The brassy bleats from the band out on the practice field playing Pomp and Circumstance over and over again as they prepared for the seniors' graduation were annoying everyone. Meg straightened the sleeves of her white blouse. She took a tentative bite of the macaroni and cheese substance. It had no taste whatsoever. She looked up to see Shannon carrying a tray toward her table. Shannon made a sour face. She was inhaling the aroma of the food substance on her plate. Oh boy, Meg thought, taking a deep breath. She knew that confronting Shannon wasn't going to be easy, but now was as good a time as any. She might as well get it over with. "What is this stuff?" Shannon asked, dropping her tray in front of Meg's and pulling out a chair with a loud scraping noise. "It's just styrofoam," Meg said, "like those crunchy things they put in packages when they ship them somewhere." Shannon poked it with a fork just the way Meg had. "Hey, I think it tried to bite my fork." Meg didn't laugh. She looked Shannon in the eye and stared hard as if searching for an answer to the question she hadn't asked yet. "What's wrong with you?" Shannon asked, dropping her fork onto the tray. "You're weirder than usual today." I have to ask you a question," Meg said softly. "Go ahead, ask, but get that morbid look off your face." "Sorry." Meg didn't realize she looked so grim. She wanted to toss this off as a light, silly thing, but now it was impossible. "Look, I know this is ridiculous, but I just have to ask." "Go ahead," Shannon pleaded. "The suspense is killing me." Meg took a deep breath. She could feel her face growing red. "Did you call me late at night and send me a threatening note?" "What?" "Did you? I got this call and a note and—" "About what?" Shannon looked genuinely confused. "Threatening me. Telling me not to have the party for Ellen." "Threatening you? You think I was threatening you?" Meg realized she had made a mistake. "No, She struggled to think of something to say to get herself out of this. "Meg, what exactly are you accusing me of?" Shannon's voice rose several octaves. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "I wasn't accusing you. I was just asking," Meg said lamely. "I just wanted you to tell me it wasn't you, that's all." "Well, it wasn't me," Shannon sneered. Her surprise was quickly turning to anger. "Why on earth would I threaten you, Meg?" "I don't know," Meg said. "Someone's been making horrible threats. Someone followed Tony, and I'm upset, Shannon. I guess I'm not thinking clearly. I guess you're not," Shannon said coldly. "But, Shannon, I didn't mean to." "I think you did what you meant to. I don't understand why you wanted to insult me, why you'd accuse me. I always thought we were good friends. I always thought we trusted each other. I'd never accuse you of anything like that, but I guess we're different. Very different. We're different than I thought." She choked out the last words. She seemed about to lose control. "Shannon, you're taking this the wrong way. I only meant—" Shannon, her face knotted up in anger, pushed away from the table, turned, and walked with long, quick strides out of the lunchroom. Meg sat frozen, staring at her, feeling like a real rat. "Thank you, Lisa, for such good advice," she thought. "Now I have no friends at all. No Tony, no Shannon." She realized she couldn't blame Lisa for what had happened. She never should have done it. She never should have confronted Shannon that way. She never should have accused her. But wait. Wasn't Shannon overreacting a bit? Why did Shannon get so hysterical so quickly? She usually didn't have such a short fuse. Was she trying to hide the fact that it was she who was terrorizing Meg? Was she carrying on like that to keep Meg from questioning her, from finding out the truth? No, Meg knew Shannon. Shannon's shock and anger were real. She wasn't putting it on. And she had every right to be shocked and angry. Meg had been a fool, and a cruel one at that. Now Shannon would probably never speak to her again. And why should she? Meg sat miserably, staring at the door to the lunchroom, trying to will Shannon back in so that she could apologize, so that she could explain. And where was Tony? Why was he being so stubborn? Didn't he know that she needed him now? After a while, she realized she was starving. She shoved the tray of yellow macaroni to the side and lifted the brown paper bag from her lap. She always bought lunch and brought a lunch too. The lunchroom food was just never enough. She started to unwrap the bag. "That's funny," she thought. "There's something leaking in here." Leaking? How could it be leaking? She'd only packed a sandwich and an apple. It must be... She reached her hand in. She felt something wet and sticky, and thick. "Oh!" She pulled her hand out fast, tipping over the bag. A dark red liquid oozed out, spilling down her white blouse onto her skirt. Meg pulled up her hand. It was covered with the warm liquid. It dripped down her wrist and onto her arm, and puddled on the lunch tray. "It's blood," she cried. "My lunch bag is filled with blood."